All right. So, with your permission, I'm going to start. Now, I'll share my experience when I started learning computers, basically programming. To me, honestly, I hope I'm clear for you all. Am I?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, basically, to me, in fact, I don't like programming that time while I was studying. I was more onto a kind of system level things like, which means I like to work with microprocessors, how the instruction set works. I don't know, that was my flair. But apparently, I understand that up to now, you need a good programming skills. But you can be choosy. You can be choosy which kind of programming you want to choose. But basically, all programming languages are more or less same. The purpose is that you have to receive user inputs or machine inputs, then you have to process it, and you have to make the desired outcomes. So let's take C or C++, Java or Python, almost does the same thing, but the complexity is a bit different. And I understand that initially learning Python is a bit easy, just because if you have gone through C, I believe Python feels so easy for you. How many of you have studied C? Just raise your hands. How many of you have studied C? You can go to the reactions and if you can raise. How many of you know C? Please. Daniel, do you know C? Yes. Flavian knows C. Jenna, you know is C?
All of us know.
Oh, great. That is good. Glad. But still, I don't know C very well because, almost everything is written on C. And C is some kind of good language, which is very close to the assembly level programmed language. It's not a ALP, but it is very much close to it. It is like if you take Earth and the Moon, so it's such only small difference is there. It is an accessible thing. So, you know how complicated was it when you're doing a matrix multiplication, isn't it? Adrian, can you share? Have you done a program on matrix multiplication, Adrian? Anybody?
No, I haven't. Oh, yes, I have. Yes, I have.
You have done?
I think we have.
Oh, my dear. There are 3 loops and you have to check the number of rows. You have to check the number of columns. And to multiply a matrix, there should be a match, isn't it? The rows and columns, there should be a match. So we have to check that first. Then we need 3 loops. And we have to put I, J, K, and the loops keep on going, complicated. But in Python, it's very simple. A matrix M1 can be straightly added to a matrix M2. So it's simple. So, Python is a bit easy just because the reason it has a lot of libraries. So whenever we want to do something, it has a lot of libraries that help us to work easily. Now you may ask me, why Python for computer science engineers? Because when you talk about a computer science engineer, it is an integrated profession. You are not going to only become software developers, because since you are an engineer, it is an integration. It is an interdisciplinary profession because you are doing softwares, you are interacting with machines using computers. So this is an integrated profession. And ideally, I say, if you have an agile robot, robotics, it's part of computer science engineering, because you are doing engineering, you are doing mechanical things and everything. And after all, you are using some kind of machine systems and programming. So always look computer science engineering in a perspective of interdisciplinary. Don't leave yourself only as a programmer. Maybe you may start like a programmer, but you are going to see your prospective profession as a team lead for software development of any kind, which includes machines. And more scope is there for artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science. And for all these things, Python is very helpful. So with your permission, do you have any questions on this matter? Any questions? So I believe since you don't have questions, I'm going to share my screen. All right. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right, just a minute. Let me drag it a little bit. All right, so hope you can see my screen. Are you seeing something? Isbat University, that white screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, okay. Now, today, what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss only very simple things. Just because of the reason, many of you may have knowledge on this, but I want to accommodate everyone, those who even do not have the knowledge of Python. So we gradually come up, then we'll move fast. So those who know all these things, they may feel a bit bored, but don't worry. Whenever you attend this session, you will have number of questions you can ask me, number of things you can practice. So it will help you. So don't worry, what I'm going to tell you now, they are very simple things, but don't get bored up. All right. So today's agenda, only one topic we are discussing. We are discussing only one topic. And that topic is the variables and data types. Now, I want to know your knowledge. What is a variable and what is a data type? Can anybody tell me what is a variable in programming? What is a variable? Anybody? Anybody? All right. So anybody know what is a data type? You say yes or no, man. Please. You have to be interactive. Can you hear me?
A variable is a container
Uh-huh.
that is used to store
Uh-huh.
data.
Okay.
Yes.
And data type? Okay, right. You are reaching the point. Let me tell you one thing. If you go to a supermarket, you can see they keep different things. There are shelves, there are refrigerators. You know, the things keep on changing, isn't it? The things keep on changing. So if you have a shelf at home, you can keep your dress, you can keep many things. So it is actually a memory space in which you can keep things. That's all. It's a memory space assigned to keep specific things. That is a variable. But these things keeps on changing. That's all. And data type, like we have many types of data. It can be a string data, that is an array of characters. It can be an integer value. It can be a floating value. It can be a Boolean value. So these are the basic things we are studying now. Later, we'll move on to different types of complex data types, classes, objects, and things. But let's start from the beginning very simply. So the first question, why use a variable? Because the purpose of programming, when you use computers, we have to receive data. When you receive data through the keyboards or through different machines, that data need to be stored in the memory before it is processed. And during the processing time also, that data need to be stored. And when you make the output, that data need to be stored in some space. So variable is a memory space or a container that is used to store data. It is a memory space, or it can be called as an array of memory spaces, like what you see in C, like linked list. So this is a variable. The data in this one keeps on changing. And why we use data types in programming? That is another question. Because in order to avoid confusion, in order to make proper computation, we use data types. We know that it is difficult to divide a string with an integer value. Maybe it can happen, but it gives erroneous outputs. So the first purpose of using computer is accuracy, zero error. So in that case, we have to specifically utilize the data types, because when you are using an integer value, when you are using a floating value, when you are using a string, when you are using a character, when you are using a Boolean value, it all will help you to do a proper computations. So that is why we are using data types. It's just like identifying what kind of data, what we are using for processing. So in Python, now I'm coming to Python. In Python, variables are used to store data values. Just like what you told, it's a container. They are used to store data values. And you know, it is a reference to the memory. Suppose if you create a variable first name, in the computer memory, it is not stored as first name. It is just that first name is referring to a memory, specific memory location. So for us, when you are working with Python or with any programming languages, it is better to know how this data is manipulated, how this data is defined. So this is how we are working with variables and data types in Python. Now, you know, whenever, if you look at C, you have to declare the variables, isn't it? You start either with public void main or int main, and after that you define the variables int a comma b, or we define int a equal to 10, int b equal to 20. Then we define a third variable int c, and we put c equal to a plus b. So that gives the outcome 30. So in C we can see that before starting the program, we have to define a variable and we have to assign a name to the variable. Then we can give the value. So, but in Python, it is something different. There is no need to declare the variable. When we assign a value to the variable, it will directly understand the data type of the variable, the value what you assign, and it becomes like that. I'll explain it a bit more clear. You look at this on the right side of the screen. Now you can see a hash. The hash is used for a command line, which means that Python is an interpreted language. It processes line by line of the code. So if you want to, this is we call as a command. So if you put a command, the interpreter will just skip that line and it will not process it. So look at here. Here I'm defining a variable name, and I am assigning the value to name as Alice. So here you can see I kept Alice in double quotes, which means that it is a string data type. So as the program starts, I'm not defining name as a string. Instead, I just assign the string to the variable name, so the name will become a string data type. I hope it is clear for you. So in Python, there is no need to define the data type before, just because of the reason Python it is working like that. So if you put name and you put in double quotes, it becomes Alice, and the value Alice will be stored under the reference of the name. Now look at next variable age. Now I define age equal to 25, which means that automatically age, the 25 is an integer value and definitely is pumping into age. So age will become a data type integer. Now you look at another variable height, and I'm assigning a floating point value to it. So height will become a data type of floating point, and it will become 1.75. The fourth data type is a Boolean data type where we use true or false. So is student is a variable. When I put true equal to true, it becomes a Boolean data type. Is that clear for you all?
Yes.
I hope it is clear. So this is the basic thing. This is bit more than easy, isn't it? Do you feel?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It is very easy. It is very easy when compared with C. Okay. So I'm moving to the next part. Now we are going to see the basic data types, the common basic data types that we are used in Python. Sometimes it comes like that when you teach multiple subjects. So in Python, the following are the major data types. The first is an integer, which I already shown you. Age equal to 25. We are assigning an integer value. The next one is a floating point number. So when you assign a floating point value, 1.75, it's a floating point. So that is another one. The next one is a string. That is an array of characters. So that is another data type. And the last one is Boolean. That is accommodates true, false. So these are the only basic for the data types which I'm going to teach you now. And we will start working on this one. Okay. Can I move to the next one? Any questions?
Yes.
All right. So now there is a good thing. If you look at this one, an integer can be converted to a string, or a floating point can be converted to an integer. That is a good thing with Python that we are going to see now. So we call it as type conversion and casting. You might be knowing what is a casting. You know about screen casting, isn't it? So like that, we are going to see another topic called as type conversion and casting. Sometimes you have to convert the data from float to the integer, integer to float, and some kind of programming logic. You can convert a string to an integer and integer to a string. Some kind of things will come. Because, Python, we use for machine learning as well, where we read text and that text can be converted to some kind of values, numbers in program logic, we can use it. But, this is a bit difficult in C. But there is a good thing with Python. Look at here. We can convert an integer to a floating value in Python. For this, we use a function float. Look at this example. I already defined an integer value int num equal to 10. And I'm converting that integer value to a floating value. So what I do here, I assign another variable float num, and that is equal to, I call a function float, and I pass the parameter that 10 through the float function, and definitely the 10, which is an integer value, which is stored in int num, will be converted to a float number. Is that clear?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Is this what we call implicit conversion?
Sorry?
Is it what we call implicit conversion?
We cannot explicitly say like that, but you can take it like that now. Because for the time being, you understand like that. Okay. For simplicity, you understand like that.
Okay.
But we will use it in later, because as we proceed further, things may change. That is why. For here, you just understand. Don't use any technicalities here. Just understand. Very simplified way. An integer value can be converted to a floating point value using a function called as float. Hope it is clear. Is that okay?
It is.
Okay. Now,
Yes,
similarly, we can convert a floating number to an integer value. Now, this you have to practice, because what will be the value printed when we use these conversions? Okay. So you can find that when we print in the first part, if you look at here, if we print float num, it should be 10.0. It has to come like that. I don't know, I haven't tried it. And when here I am converting the float 5.7 to an integer value. So it should print 6, isn't it? Well, let's try. We'll practice that one. So because it is truncating the decimal, so a round off should come, and the 5.7, it should be round off to 6. We'll try and see when we practice that one. You can practice that. So an integer can be converted to a float, and a float can be converted to an integer. Now look at this one. Age is a integer here, and we can convert that integer to a string. So using a str function. So any integer can be converted to a string. Sorry, any integer can be converted to a string using the str function. Similarly, a string can be converted to an integer using a int function. So, which means that Python, it makes life a bit easy by cross conversions. It makes life easy bit by cross conversions, just because of the reason it has some kind of functions by which we can pass an argument as a parameter for the function, and we can keep on doing conversions. We'll practice this by doing some kind of simple exercises. If it is clear for you all, I can move to the next slide or next topic. Is that okay? Please respond. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
I
sir.
hope.
You can move on.
Okay. I hope my speed is also comfortable for you. My language is also accessible for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right. So now, oh my God, what happened? Now there is some conventions. So some norms we use while we do naming, because this is a good thing as a programmer. You have to keep in mind, because in C also we do some naming conventions, but it is not so like specified or not so like it is mentioned early before when we start programming. But in Python, we follow some naming conventions because this is to improve the readability of the code. So, you know, we have to, when we put some variable, then we make it in 2 parts with an underscore. So it helps us to identify the variables easily. There will be always a short description about the variable in Python when we use. So I'm going to show you some rules what we use. So suppose if I am putting a name, in the middle I can put an underscore. So like look at here, because if you look back in our previous slide, see float num. So it is easy for me to understand. It's a floating value underscore num. So it's a number with floating value. So these are some conventions what we use in Python. So we use underscore. One side we explain what the other one. So some kind of description you can see always when you define variables in Python using underscores. So, and moreover, these are case sensitive. So in Python, when we define variables, the uppercase, lowercase has a difference. It identifies it as different. But what you have to do, even when you done C also, if you use some keywords that is being used in the programming language, it will create erroneous results. Like for, while. So there are some sentences, some words which you use in program. This is called as reserved words that you can search in the internet and you can find what are the reserved words what we use in Python. But if you look at here, this is the naming convention. So I'm keeping the first name in a variable, first underscore name. And I'm putting in double quotes and it is called as John. The last name, I put in another variable name, last underscore name, and I keep do. So you know one thing, from the program code itself, the readability is easy for us. We have to practice this from the beginning. So if someone reads your code or yourself reads the code, the readability should be good because you are going to work in projects. It's not only used for you and everyone, the people who go through this codex, it should be like they should understand how the program is being made or how the coding is being made, not the program. Now, I'm creating a third variable, full underscore name, and I'm going to concatenate my first name and second name. Very simple. First name plus second last name. But I concatenated it with a white space. That's I put 2 double quotes and I put a space bar in between. So I'll get a space John space Doe. It is easy, isn't it? It's very easy to concatenate 2 strings, first name plus second name. Automatically it concatenates. So these are the variable naming conventions basically we use when we work with Python. Hope it is clear. Now, I'm going to show you a sample program. This is a sample Python program. What all things I discussed to you now, we are going to perform it as a program. So first you watch the screens, then we can start working on it. Okay? Can we proceed?
Yes.
All right. So look at here. First, we are showing declaring and assigning variables. This already I explained to you. First name underscore, first underscore name, Alice, age, height, and is a student true. Now, so that is how I'm declaring and assigning the variables. And if you try to display the values, how can you display? You can put a function called as print. So in the print, if you put print first name, it will definitely print the name itself. But here, for outcome, better outcome, what we do, print name is first name, age is age, height is height, and a student is student. Like in C, I think you don't have to put a slash and as a new line, it will come line by line. Okay. So this, if you assign like this, and if you code print, then you will get an outcome. Oh, my dear. Now we are making the type conversions. As I already told you, there is the logo binding. Don't worry, it is type conversion. Int age can be converted to an integer, float height, float age string. We can, these all conversions. So you can manipulate this. You can just keep on changing it and see what is going to come. So when we can display all this by using a print function. Now I'll teach you also how to take input from the keyboard. Let's do this first, then we'll learn it also. I hope many of you know that also. Okay. Now we can concatenate 2 strings. This already I shown you. So we can concatenate the strings. These are some exercises, what we are going to do. So I stop sharing now. Now I want to know, so that is the end of that session. And in that session, we have explained what we are going to, initially the data conversions and the data types. That's all we have studied. Now, if you can come on screen, it will be good. I can see you all. If you can come on screen, I want to know what kind of Python editor you are using. Because I put a link for Jupyter Notes. I'm going to share my screen on that one. Jupyter Notes is good one, but I don't know how we are going to access it. It is easy. I put a link for you how to install the Jupyter Notes. So it is something a bit easy. So you can work on Jupyter Notes. Now, let me try to see. I'm sharing my screen. Oh, my dear. No, this is not the one. Screen sharing has stopped. So let me share my desktop. Okay, let me share it. So I have my Jupyter notebook here. All right. Connecting to kernel. Let it connect. No, this is, I already given you a link. And if you go to that link, you can download and use Jupyter Notes. Otherwise, you can use Google Colab, for which you need internet connectivity always. Otherwise, you can use a PyCharm editor. So whichever you feel comfortable, you can use it. Okay. So whichever you comfortable, you can use it. So I want to know if you all can use Jupyter Notes, it will be easy. I need a response from you all. Can you see my screen? Hello, am I lost?
And see.
You can hear me, no? All right. So you can use any Python editor, but if you have Jupyter Notes, you can use it. Okay, now what I'm going to do, when you open Jupyter Notes, I'm opening a new notebook. This is same for everyone. If you use any PyCharm editor, oh, there was an error. I think I lost, oh, it is still connecting to kernel. What happened? Let me restart my kernel. So it will take some time. Okay. So let me use a new notebook. Is that showing some error? Let me see. Oh my dear. Okay. So what I do, I'll start from here. I think there is some kernel error is happening. Let me try to see. Okay. So if I open one thing, this is called as a cell in Jupyter Notes. Let me try to print my name. Print hello world. Print hello world. Still there is an error. Okay. I think I lost the connection. Let me see. It is showing some error. Kernel is showing some error. So not connected. Let me try to connect it. Click to reconnect. Connecting to kernel. This all happens in between. Okay. Let me take the home. Untitled. Connection failed or notebook could not be established. Continue retrying. Okay. Let me close all these things. This is also not connected. Okay. Let me new Python kernel. Oh my dear. Okay, no problem. What happened? Before I tried to show you to install Jupyter Notes, so some error has happened. No problem. So I stop my sharing. All right. So what you can do, I'll share this video with you and the notes what I've taken with you. You can start working in your PyCharm editor or in your Jupyter Notes or Google Colab. Okay. Now, can you all please unmute? Can you all please unmute? And let's have some questions. You want to ask me something, you can ask me. Any questions? Any suggestions? Any questions or anything, please?
So
Yes, please.
why would we use Python over any other programming language? What's the basic use for Python?
Basic use of Python. Yes, that's a good question. You can use Python in anything. That is a good thing with Python. But for computer science engineers, because depending upon an area of interest, Python is more used in artificial intelligence. And Python can be very effectively used in network and network programming. And even Python can be also used in many device interfaces. So Python is something that can be used inside the machines and as well as for machine learning, artificial intelligence. So it has a lot of versatility. That is the first thing with Python. Like any other programming languages, Python is easy to learn, but its manipulation capacity is good. For some kind of languages, we have to write a lot of set of codes, but Python, it makes life a bit easy. But every programming is good. But when you take to Python, to my experience, I say good for machine learning, artificial intelligence, and device interfacing. And even it's very good for networks also. Yeah, yes, correct. It's good for
Thank you, sir.
API, socket, that's all network related data packets. It's very easy. It's very easy. It is very easy to learn. No, you don't get bored up when you study Python. You can spend hours and you can see the real results coming out.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Now, I want to know how many of you have installed this Python thing in your system so that you can practice. Is everybody? Flavia, have you installed Python? Okay, Daniel has installed. So I sent a link for installing Jupyter Notes. Richard, Angela, Jenna, Precious. Now, if you have any challenges in installing in Python, please you can contact me in WhatsApp so that I can get into your system using, any kind of desktop sharing devices. Okay. So what I suggest, there is no limit for your fast learning, but for me, I will go study pace by pace because I want to accommodate everyone. My aim is that somebody should not keep away from programming just because of less understandability. Me, I am a person who left programming just because of that. Initially, I was not able to catch up what was being told in the class. Maybe I started my learning of computer science in a very old age. That may be one reason. So that should not happen to anybody. That is why we go slowly. What is that, Daniel? Do we need a separate folder or environment to keep only accommodate Python program? It's not required. There is no, yes, if you can keep like that. I used to make like that because I keep a separate folder for Python. So all my programs will be saved in that folder. So in future, I can use it. So it is good if you can keep a separate folder. It helps to sort the things in a better way. Even when you install also, if your laptop is having 2 drives, you can install them in either in another drive instead of installing in the C drive. And let me see, I see some other charts also. I have installed already. Okay, ISS. You talked about socket programming. Now we will, after 2 days, we will move quickly. We will bit more faster, but this will depend upon. Everyone's capacity. Is the use of virtual environment for automatic Python stacking? Is the use of virtual environment? What do you mean by that, Daniel? What do you mean by that? I don't know. Daniel, he put some message. Can you hear me? All right. So we'll come to the complex parts. We can work like that. Even you can use Stack also. So you can work like that. Let's go very simple in a simple process. Then we'll go to a complex process. But it is good if you can go a bit more faster. There is no problem. And you can suggest me after 2 days, I can go faster. That is also not a problem. But understand, I will go through the basics and gradually I pick you up. And when you're okay to work with Python, then we'll start working with projects of group by group. Is that okay? Jenna, is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Precious, is that okay?
Yes, it's okay.
So if it is okay, can we enter for today? All right. So I'm closing the session for today. Thank you everyone for attending. And this recorded session, I'll post in the YouTube also. So keeps going, study well, at least spend, I say, since you don't have other works, you can immerse yourself in 2 to 3 hours every day. If I say, I'll suggest like you can at least put 12 hours every day. So, but a few days you don't do much. If you're good in that, you can start doing, then we'll keep on moving quickly and faster. Okay. I'll follow exactly the framework that I given to you. I given you a content structure before I started this program. So I'll follow according to that one, but anytime you can go very fast and advanced more than that. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Bebalenyo. Good night.
Sir.
All right. Thank you all.